It's unbearable. It's unbelievable that if you kill a coworker at the city of Fort Collins, it's like committing the perfect crime.
Her son killed by a co-worker at the Fort Collins bus barn. So why doesn't the driver face any charges? Police and prosecutors say there was no crime when a man was run over by a bus at the Fort Collins city bus barn.
But dashcam video obtained by the problem solvers may have you wondering. Investigative reporter Rob Lowe with why the victim's mom and her attorney think the investigation should be reopened.
This is a photo of Jason Talene. We're not going to name the driver who killed Jason because he wasn't charged, but that's what bothers the victim's mom and her attorney. They don't understand how you can run someone over and not even receive a careless driving ticket. Warning to our viewers, we're going to show some pretty dramatic dash cam footage to help you decide for yourself if this was an avoidable accident or not. It's the night of January 24th. Jason Talene is walking towards the Fort Collins bus barn where he's worked for nearly 3 years. He seems to assume a bus driver coming the opposite way can see him. And you might too, given this dash cam that shows what the driver could see. Jason just left of center when suddenly the driver takes a hard left.
I miss him every minute of every day. He's my only child.
Patricia Talene is Jason's mother and does not understand how the coworker who killed her son did not receive so much as a traffic citation.
It was not a situation where someone came out from behind a building or a blind corner. Jason was walking across a wide open parking lot.
We're feeling like this investigation was not done in a way that was impartial and fair.
Matthew Holtzman is Patricia's attorney and finds it unbelievable the driver who killed Jason Talene faced no repercussions.
We learned that this was not just an avoidable accident, but one that had such a degree of negligence that it rises to the level of criminal.
And yet no criminal charges were filed.
That's right.
Body cam obtained by the problem solvers shows even the driver himself wondered if he might get fired.
Am I fired? Like, oh, don't worry about that. I'm seriously. That is, we just want to make sure you have everything you need.
The driver was not fired or ticketed. We're blurring his face since he was not charged, and there's no doubt he felt terrible about what he did.
I do have to tell you that Jason did pass away. I'm so sorry.
But Jason's mother says criminal intent isn't the issue. Negligence is.
I think it's just part of their cover-up mentality.
She and her attorney believe the driver should have been cited with careless driving resulting in death.
I think the video really speaks for itself, and that the bus driver just was not paying attention to what was in front of him.
The dash cam shows Jason for 8 seconds before he's hit. Careless driving is the minimum citation that should have been issued, according to attorney Matthew Holtzman.
And I think that the driver of that bus is getting a pass on charges because he is a City of Fort Collins employee, and that's extremely concerning.
Larimer County prosecutors declined an interview request from the problem solvers, but in a lengthy statement said, "We must consider whether there is a reasonable likelihood of conviction at trial and whether the ends of justice are served by a prosecution," adding, "That footage does not accurately reflect what the bus driver would have seen at the time. The camera's perspective is clearly not the same as the driver's perspective." When interviewed, the driver was clear that he did not see Mr. Talene on the tarmac at any point during the incident. Complicating factors, including lighting and a lack of reflective clothing, likely impacted the driver's view of Talene.
When I made the turn to go into 11, I hit something. I was like, what the hell was that? I thought it was like ice fell or something, and I backed up, and I saw his body laying there. And I just went into shock.
In an email, the City of Fort Collins told the problem solvers high-visibility vests were provided to staff prior to the incident. However, this was not a consistently enforced requirement. These requirements are now being consistently enforced. Fox 31 did see workers wearing neon reflective vests when we recently visited the city bus barn.
Any changes that can prevent future harm or death are an amazing thing. They're a great thing. But it's also a little too late because Jason's no longer with us.
Matthew Holtzman cannot sue Fort Collins because under Colorado's Government Immunity Act, the only remedy for a government worker killed on the job by a coworker is workman's compensation.
And the death benefit is $12,500. That's exactly how much Ms. Tulane received from the city of Fort Collins for the death of her son, and that's it.
$12,500.
$12,500, which is less than the cost of his funeral.
He was a perfect son. We were a team. He was all I had. It's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching.
There is still one way for Patricia to get justice. Her attorney can petition a judge to compel prosecutors to charge the bus driver. If Matthew Holtzman can convince a judge, prosecutors should have done so in the first place.
I just don't see how any reasonable prosecutor could look at this video and say that there wasn't some degree of carelessness.
But getting a judge to agree is incredibly rare, especially when prosecutors believe the driver has suffered enough.
I mean, this kid was my friend. Just killed my friend. How do you deal with that? How do you live with that?
Attorney Matthew Holtzman says he will file a petition sometime this summer asking a judge to force prosecutors to reopen this case. We'll be sure to let you know what the judge decides. Rob Lowe, Fox 31. Most people haven't. It's called a motion to compel prosecution, and it's because the district attorney declined to file charges against a bus driver who accidentally ran over his coworker. The entire incident was caught on video, so decide for yourself if you think prosecutors should be forced to reopen this case or not.
Am I fired?
Oh, don't worry about that.
We're not naming the driver since he wasn't fired, let alone charged, but the interior video from his own vantage point shows he had 8 seconds to see Jason Tulane before running him over on January 24th at a Fort Collins bus maintenance facility where the two men worked.
I do have to tell you that Jason did pass away. I'm so sorry.
Justice has not been served because he killed my son in a totally avoidable accident.
Patricia Tulane is Jason's mom and says the video doesn't lie. She insists the driver was careless because he focused on the garage bay he was turning into instead of his coworker on the tarmac in front of him.
It is an absolute travesty of justice that this man ran over and killed my son with not even so much as a slap on the hand. No ticket, nothing.
And something needs to be done by the courts in order to override what the district attorney is trying to do here, which is sweep the case under the rug.
Matthew Holtzman is Patricia's attorney, and he's filed something incredibly rare, a motion to compel prosecution. In essence, he's asking a judge to tell Larimer County prosecutors they got it wrong when they declined to pursue the charge of careless driving resulting in death.
The legislature intended for citizens to be able to have a voice when they feel like prosecutors act in a way that is unreasonable and in a way that is really just, at the end of the day, random.
A spokesman for District Attorney Gordon McLaughlin told the Problem Solvers the DA will be responding to the motion to compel prosecution, and we are unable to discuss any further details as this case is pending before the court. But back in April, investigators told Fox 31 it was reasonable for the driver not to see Jason Tulane because he wasn't wearing a reflective vest, the lighting was poor, and prosecutors said the bus's interior camera didn't really reflect what the driver could see. But Holtzman hired his own forensic experts who say LED lights by the bus barn actually created good nighttime light, and the driver would have a better viewing angle of Mr. Tulane than the video camera, and more importantly, likely had better eyesight than the technical capacity of the video camera to see at night.
Yeah, there is a discrepancy, and the discrepancy is that the bus driver actually had better vision than what you'll see on the camera.
He got away with murder, he got to keep his driver's license, he got to keep his jobs, and he got to kill someone with no penalty. That is inexcusable.
Careless driving resulting in death is a misdemeanor punishable by up to a year in jail. Now, it could be weeks or even months before a judge decides if it's worth holding a hearing on the motion to compel or if she's simply going to dismiss it, but we'll certainly let you know when the judge makes a decision. Rob Lowe, Fox 31.
Also here at 9, motion denied. A Problem Solvers follow-up to a story we brought you earlier this year about a fatal bus accident in Fort Collins.
Investigative reporter Rob Lowe with why prosecutors won't be forced to criminally charge a man who ran over his co-worker at that city bus facility. Rob.
Erica, previously we told you prosecutors declined to charge the man who ran over Jason Tulane at work, saying it was a terrible accident and there was no likelihood of conviction. But Talene's mom maintains this was an obvious case of careless driving resulting in death, and her legal team learned of a new allegation just a few days ago that might have made a big difference had police and prosecutors known about it when Jason was killed. The problem solvers have shown you this video before, dash cam that shows the bus driver had 8 seconds to see Jason Talene walking on the tarmac at the Transport bus facility before he was run over. Investigators said poor lighting and a lack of reflective clothing made Talene hard to see at night. So the district attorney declined to press charges, which brought us to this court hearing in Fort Collins this afternoon for a rare legal effort called a motion to compel prosecution.
It was a killing. My son lost his life. It was careless. It was negligent. There was no reason it should have happened.
Mom, Patricia Talene, hired attorney Matthew Holtzman to ask a judge to make prosecutors file a misdemeanor count of careless driving resulting in death.
And as this case has continued to unfold, there has been additional information that has come forth that implicates the driver that killed Jason even more.
Especially because an engineering firm Holtzman hired just received new information days ago from a co-worker of the bus driver, saying the driver supposedly had recent eye surgery for cataracts, which might explain why the 63-year-old driver did not see his co-worker on the tarmac.
I mean, it goes to whether or not an individual is driving in a reasonable and prudent manner, right? Or if somebody has difficulty seeing at night and they know they can't see at night, they have no business being behind a bus.
But the judge denied the motion, saying under Colorado law, she would have to find the district attorney abused his discretion by acting arbitrarily and capriciously in declining the charges. A high burden the judge said had not been met, regardless of whether she agreed with the DA's decision.
That was a totally incompetent investigation. That should have been one of the first things they asked him, was if he had any vision problems.
Lamar County District Attorney Gordon McLaughlin calls this case a tragedy, but says not all tragedies are crimes, and that 11 attorneys in his office spent time reviewing the evidence. He offered condolences to Patricia Talene. She tells me she plans to appeal. Rob Lowe, Fox 31.
All right, Rob.